Welcome to the Financial Freedom Mastermind Group podcast. Here we're all about breaking free from the 40 to 50 year word ride and accelerating our journey towards financial freedom. Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern as we explore different types of investments that can fast track your path to financial independence. We serve as a hub for connecting with fellow members during our sessions so you can share successes, ask questions, and keep the momentum going.
Everyone, this is Unveiling, host of the Akaba Home Financial Freedom Mastermind podcast, and I am excited to join you on the last Wednesday of March. And today we are going to be diving into the NAR ruling. There was a lot of news that dropped last week with NAR reaching a $418 million settlement. And so my co-host and I are going to be breaking down the fallout from that NAR ruling and also getting our takes, talking about how the industry is going to change a bit. And then obviously inviting the rest of the group to join as well. Levon, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Excited for this because I'm sure I myself was a little confused kind of going over all the information. So I'm sure this is going to be very educational for people. Because if I was confused and I'm in it every day, then I'm sure people that are outside of it kind of don't have any idea what's going on.
Absolutely. 100% agree. And before we get started, is the internet going to work today? That's the question.
That's what we're hoping for. We changed some things. So fingers crossed.
No,
fingers crossed.
What you got, Levon?
Yeah, so I mean, kind of the first thing. Oh, no way. I'm gonna say there's no way.
Okay.
No way.
Start it over. Go for it.
No way. There's no way.
Mm-hmm.
No, but I was gonna say the first thing is kind of going over high level. I'll kind of explain how I understand it, and then you can kind of fill in the gaps. So essentially, there were sellers that sued.
And AJ, I see your comment. And this is pretty.
I was very good at that guy. I swear.
I'm gonna give you another go right on this piece, and then I will explain it. Go for it.
Okay. Yeah. So essentially, no longer now will sellers be responsible for both sides, both the seller and buyer's compensation. Previously, sellers we were kind of cooperating with them, and hey, that 6% listing fee, the seller's agent isn't actually taking all that. He's giving a percentage of that to incentivize buyers to come in and show the home, because of the fact that, hey, the more people you have coming in, the more likely you are to get an offer, the more likely you are to get that home sold. So in it, I think the actual definition of it was quote unquote and I think it was actually the fact that the listing fee I found was the actual MLS. The fact that we are putting it on the MLS, that's what determined, hey, the buyer's agent has to have some level of compensation, because what's preventing the listing agent from just cutting that individual completely out of the deal and representing both sides.
And we lost you for a second when you said what's preventing from cutting that individual completely out.
Mm-hmm. No, that was it. That was the end. Yeah.
Okay. So to that point, I think it's spot on as far as the way the ruling came out and what it was trying to disrupt. It was basically an antitrust lawsuit saying that NAR had a monopoly on the industry and they forced sellers to pay the other side's commission. And to your point, it really revolved around the MLS itself. So when you look at Zillow, you may not notice this, but if you scroll all the way to the bottom of whatever listing you're looking at, it tells you what the buyer's agent will get compensated for helping close that deal. And what this has allowed over the years is for buyer's agents to tell their clients, hey, no worries, the fee's covered by the seller. And so people were able to go to their cousin's, auntie's, wife's mother, right, who happen to have a license, and use them because, hey, I'm not paying this person, I just need somebody to kind of close this deal, things of that nature. And so what this lawsuit, this $418 million settlement is going to do, and it's actually going to happen sooner than we realize, is it's going to remove that requirement on the MLS. And more than remove that requirement, it's going to take that whole thing off. So there's not going to be anything there. And now, in order for a buyer's agent to show their buyer a house, they need to have a commission agreement in place with that buyer before they can even get access to the house. And so this is a major change and a shakeup from what it used to be, where you would typically meet a client at a house or an open house and, hey, let's go check out a couple of houses, build a rapport, and then put together a buyer's agreement. Now you've got to do a lot of that up front. And what I relate this to, I'm actually kind of happy about this, right? And I look at it as a major opportunity because so many agents have their license, right? It's not that hard to get a license. You can literally get it in about 3 months, and there's not
Less.
or less, right? If you're hustling, you can get it in about 2 weeks, right? And it's one of those things where it's going to force people to actually be differentiated. And what I mean by that is, yes, any agent can help anybody, but when you go to, say, a doctor, for instance, right? A couple weeks ago, I hurt my finger playing basketball, and Levon was there. So, you know, I don't know if it's bad luck or
Hey, first dog.
but we're not gonna get it all up. Long story short, I was playing basketball and I hurt my finger. And I did not go to a general doctor for this, right? What I went to was a hand doctor. The reason being, they work with hands. They know how to, okay, let's make sure you get the full range of motion back. We're going to do these exercises. We're going to give you this type of splint. Then we're going to switch over to this so you get that full flexion back. And that's why I went to them. If I had hurt my foot, I'd go to a foot doctor. And so it's the same thing in the real estate industry that I think is going to start to shake out. You're going to have certain agents that are like us, investor friendly, right? And what we're doing is focused on the investor market, knowing how to run the numbers, knowing how to source deals, and being able to bring tremendous value to our buyer clients through that. You're going to have other agents that focus on more of the retail, right? Like, hey, I help first-time home buyers just buy a house that they want to live in, quote unquote, and others that focus on, you know, commercial and things of that nature. And so it's going to allow the good agents to start to rise to the top because they're going to need to differentiate their services and things of that nature. And so I'm low-key kind of excited. Now, on the flip side of that, from a buyer perspective, it's going to be a bit tougher, right? From a buyer perspective, you're now going to be on the hook for that commission piece. And it just depends on who you're utilizing, what agent you're working with, how much of that you're going to have to come to the table with. I've already been coaching our team and Lebon's been in lockstep and everybody else. And what we're going to be doing is negotiating hard to still, regardless of what the seller has, quote unquote, budgeted aside, to get the seller side to pay for a majority of it, right? Through negotiations, whether that be through credits and things of that nature. But it's definitely a shakeup. It's not a given anymore. It's something that has to be talked about up front. Lebon, what's your take?
Yeah, I also think what's kind of going to happen is, did it crash again?
We hear you.
Hello?
We hear you.
Okay, I'm nervous now. I'm nervous because the bad thing. But no, I think essentially what's going to happen is sellers now are kind of going to be in a quote unquote worse position because we know sellers as we want people to, if you're a seller, you want as many buyers as possible. But a lot of times as a seller yourself, you care about that net. That net is the most important thing to a seller. And so it's really going to be, previously it was kind of a hidden, hey, you're getting a lot of benefit by giving up that 3%. But now having to go up with that kind of piece is kind of difficult because now you're going to have to say to the seller basically, hey, I'm responsible for that piece and kind of going over that. And so now I think it's going to make homes sit a little longer. It's primarily homes that were harder to sell, homes that weren't getting a lot of attention. Those are going to be harder to sell. And specifically, I know, you know, we as agents, we're humans just like everyone else, and there's some implicit bias. And so if I see a house and they're giving out 0 and the house down the street is giving out 3, I'm going to push my client to that 3% if it's the exact same thing, considering it, you know, that house doesn't have anything special going on to it. And so that's going to leave an already kind of existing inventory last even longer.
Yeah. And it's one of those where, to your point, for sellers, and we're still going to be pushing this with our sellers, right? Regardless of whatever is on the MLS, we should, when we're flipping and selling these houses for a lot of our clients, offer a buyer's commission. Reason being, what you just said, if you want to sell it quickly and not have it sit on the market, this is a huge incentive that we can now offer, and we can do it through the phone. The main piece about this lawsuit is we can no longer list it on the MLS. Doesn't mean we can't advertise it in other ways, right? And so we're going to get creative and make sure that people understand, hey, there's a commission coming your way if you bring those buyers in. And those that do still offer that piece to the buyer's agents are going to have an abundance, right, of individuals coming through. And so it's just going to lead to another negotiation, even with our seller clients, to ensure like, hey, these things have changed. It's up to you.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend that we offer X amount so that we can get them the most people in. Or if we want to take this piece out, the home can sit for a bit, right? It may sit for additional, 30, 45 days where you're paying another mortgage and things of that nature. And so it's going to be a conversation, all negotiable. But I'm excited for this new chapter because whenever there's change in the market like this, it equals an opportunity. And I think that some people are going to rise to the top. And I think that a lot of people, I've already talked to some agents that were kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. They're fully out now.
Yeah.
So this is gonna separate some folks.
I also think this is gonna make home prices more expensive. I think it's gonna happen, like where we see now. Oh, I don't want to pay that 3, so I'm gonna increase my cost by this, so I have it set aside. And so yeah, I think that's also gonna happen where home prices are gonna go up a little bit. And this is actually gonna be really bad for buyers who are already having a tough time purchasing. Because we already know right now it's tough for buyers, especially in markets that are really sought after. And so now you're going to have to pay a premium for a premium market. And then additionally, if you want to work with an agent who is going to get you competitive in that market, you're going to be paying additionally there. And so it's just, I feel like it's kind of going to go higher in the pricing.
It definitely makes it a lot harder, especially for a new buyer who doesn't know what they're getting into. Because when I bought my first property, I scraped together everything I had, right? 3.5%. It was $5,000. And I slapped that thing down and I got the property. I was excited, right? Now I would have had to have a little over 10 grand, right? Closer to like 11 grand to make that work. And it's tough, right? You're not looking at the right team. It's going to be tough. That's one. And then when you look from a buyer perspective, and I hear Eric, Kareem, you on button for a second? Yeah. Great. And then when you look from a buyer perspective, right? This is one of the barrier. It's going to add another barrier to entry for those new buyers because they don't have the whole track record built up. And one thing I think about is we're already turning into more of a renter nation, right? With more individuals trying to just continue to rent because interest rates are high and things of that nature. And so it's only going to make it more unaffordable. And so for me, on the flip side, as an investor, I'm like, hey man, let me continue to acquire a couple of these because if there's going to be a huge renter pool because, now people got to save up more to even be able to acquire that first house, then I'm going to own those rentals and be able to charge that premium. Kareem, how you doing, man?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Super good.
Good. I keep asking about that piece LeBron was talking about. I'm a little confused about this. I figured before it's called, I figured this would potentially could bring the prices down in the opposite direction because of the drop in the buying power from the seller's point of view. So now they have, from a buyer's point of view, now they have there's less buying power in the buyer's market because they have 3% less money now because they have to pay the agents. You were saying this might drive the prices up. So I was trying to understand this better. What's your point of view on this? How will it drive it up?
So my explanation is kind of seeing in areas with low market. The issue is not pricing or inventory. There quite literally are not lines to sell. And because of that, kind of is
Kareem, we got you either that part.
Yeah, sure.
I try to fight through it. Yeah, I'm sorry. But no, I think it's one of those things where because of that, let's say, for instance, you have a home that is already in an area that is quote unquote Marietta. I'll use Marietta as an example. Marietta has really low days on market. It also has really low inventory because not a lot of people are selling their home. But there are a lot of people overqualified to buy in Marietta. I'm noticing kind of the homes that sit on the market are those first-time homeowner price ranges. It's not really that second level. Like, for instance, Alpharetta. I have clients that I'm currently working with in Alpharetta. And the issue with Alpharetta is there's literally not enough houses for the amount of people who want to live there. And there's an population of people who are qualified to buy an Alpharetta that they just don't want to buy in another market. They don't want to buy in Canton. They don't want to buy in Cumming. They don't want to buy in these other areas because Alpharettas, very good schools, very popular area, etc. And so because of that, that limited inventory now is going to basically have a fight going on for it, even more so than there was already previously, because to your point, they're going to say, oh, I don't have this 3% cost anymore, but there's still the same amount of people buying in that area. So the seller's looking at it like, okay, if I was a smart seller, I would still give out that 3% because now, let's say, for instance, I'm competing against some like, an older person who's like, I want as much money as I can keep. If they list under, right, now everyone's going to say, oh, this home is under market. Now let's go after it. Bidding war. I think when I was in a position like this where home was just freshly listed, we went on there, we put an offer out day 7. Day 9, they had 6 offers above us. And this was like, home was on septic, needed renovations. It just didn't have an HOA. And so I think that is kind of the reason of it, because those areas that are still, and that's why I make the distinction of in-demand areas. I think to your point, areas like, for instance, that are less higher days on market, those are going to sit for a lot longer. And those are the ones that are going to have to give out that 3% if they want it sold.
And I have a slightly different take on this, right? I don't think it's going to affect price increase or decrease. I think that sellers still believe their home is worth X amount. And you can see that even now, right? Interest rates have gone up double, but people are still listing for the prices that it's gone up to, and it's selling because of that low inventory. I think what this is going to shift is that buyer pool, right? And who you're working with, and those realtors being able to talk about the value that they're going to bring, right? That's the one piece that was never really a detailed conversation before. But now, just like any other profession, when you're dealing with lawyers, you're talking to specialized lawyers. There's real estate lawyers. There's marriage lawyers. There's all different types, right? So you want to talk to the right one and kind of build that piece. And so what it is going to do is it's going to eliminate a lot of realtors in the market, right? Right now, I think we have like 20 or something like that, about 20% more realtors than there are houses in the market right now because everybody got it in 2020. It's going to eliminate a lot of realtors. I think it's going to push a lot of people toward just the select few that kind of rise to the top. That's kind of my take, right? I don't think it's going to do anything to the prices. Honestly, I think we're all going to kind of figure that piece out. And I believe that the mortgage companies, knowing that they still want people to be able to afford properties, are going to come out with some potential new regulations. Like right now, there's caps on what percent you can get toward closing, right? All we need to do is adjust some of those caps, and voila, you've got the fees kind of covered if somebody's able to negotiate that piece. But for the new buyers that don't realize like, hey, we should be asking for this from the seller in our offers, yeah, it's going to make it a bit more expensive.
And I have a question, kind of to your point, because I read about the, lender piece, and I saw something additional, essentially how mortgage lenders now will basically be like, we'll cover your agent fees, like the agent fee, because they know if you get into a house, we're going to make money. We just need to get you into the house. And so they'll like use their, credits to say, hey, if you purchase, we'll cover X%. Is that something that you could see happening more often? Because that's something I saw that they're talking about doing, but is that legal?
Yeah, I mean, legal. They're very like legal, non-legal. That's not for me to discuss on that piece. But they definitely can get creative when they want to, right? Like when the pandemic hit and everything slowed down, they started coming out with, hey, we'll do 15% down based on STR numbers, right? Based on AirDNA numbers, which was never done before. That went away quickly. It lasted for like 2 months. And now, I mean, they're starting to do HELOCs on investment properties. 5, 4, even like 3 years ago, you couldn't do that. You could not get a HELOC on an investment property. Now they're doing that pretty consistently. So yeah, there's many ways that they can start to kind of make adjustments. But again, this is not all going to hit until July. So I think there's going to be so many creative solutions that come up between now and then. But Desmond, AJ, welcome. How you doing?
What's up? What's up?
I think it's pretty cool how they can just like change the rules and then like
hey, it's a whole new playing field now. Like they just changed the rules of the game, and like, okay, it's a new game to figure out. And I actually experienced this right in my last purchase, where at first, we had the search set up for single families with an ADU, right? Because that's all of the house I was going to be able to buy, based off the financing, given that I was going to have to put at least 15% down, right, to try to get the triplex, 20% down at least to get the fourplex. And I literally talked to the lender like the week prior to me sending me the text, like, yo, dude, like they just blew everything wide open. So it was crazy. We're literally in like a day, we were looking at one type of property, and then out of nowhere, it's like I'm looking at a whole different class of properties. Like my whole mind shifted. I'm like excited again, really, because I was like, dang, like, I don't know. It felt limiting in a way. And I feel like the regulations can feel limiting. But then when they change them, it's like, all right, like, cool, thanks.
Absolutely. And that was a perfect example, right? That was literally last year that switched over to where now you can put 5% down on a multi-unit. So you definitely got to keep your eye out. You definitely got to, be able to adapt quickly and kind of go from there. And AJ, I know we shared a laugh earlier, like right on cue, the internet just cut out. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, man. But AJ, how you doing?
Yeah, man, Levon, I wasn't the one that was making fun of your internet connection.
Okay, guys.
Last podcast, that wasn't me.
Thank you, guys. It's okay.
We got to work on that, but yeah, like this is such an interesting topic because I know I had heard about this and I was following it a bit, probably like a couple of months ago when it was growing up, and then I kind of like fell off of it. But I'm glad you brought this topic up because I'm still trying to, I guess, wrap my head around like exactly what's going on. I know seller's agent usually, they get the 3%, the buyer's agent gets the other 3%, make up the 6% total. I'm sitting here reading an article from Yahoo Finance. It's titled NAR Settlement Causing Total Confusion in Real Estate. And the headline is the National Association of Realtors has agreed to pay $418 million after reaching a settlement in a lawsuit where a federal jury ruled the organization had conspired to inflate commissions. So when I read that, I'm like, were you guys, making up commissions? Like, what were you guys doing? I'm like, I don't know what's going on because typically from what I understand is that both parties get the 3%. I know when buyer agents kind of usually say like, oh, that's the seller, they're pretty much going to pay for the commission, so you don't have to worry about it. But I also have heard that the sellers will actually basically inflate the price of the home. So it's kind of like baked into the commission is baked into the price of the home. Just a little, it's a lot going on. And like I said, I'm glad you really brought this one up, but I'm just trying to really wrap my hand around the issue at hand, understand so that I can actually kind of speak my mind on it and what I think, how this could impact the real estate market.
Sure. And I think this is awesome, right? That we're having an open conversation on this. So NAR is like just about every single brokerage is a part of NAR. It's basically like a lobbying committee that's oversees all realtors who are not active, quote unquote, members. It's almost like you have to be a part of NAR to be able to list properties on the MLS or to be able to even go look at properties. So you see the little like blue super lock that we get into. You've got to be a part of that to be able to access that. And that's part of the membership fees that we pay. But I mean, I haven't met anybody from the board of NAR or anything like that. And I'm sure Levon has it. But long story short, what they're saying is that for many years, NAR has forced, like by on the site that you list your property, forced you to put what the buyer agent compensation is. And so if you're looking through a bunch of properties, say we find 3 properties, all are the same, right? All of them are going to bring a 20% return. They all make a lot of sense. It all looks about the same year built. They're the exact same property. One of them could be offering 1% to the buyer brokerage, the other one 2%, the other one 3%. Which one do you believe your buyer's agent is going to take you to? More than likely the 3%. If all other things are the same, the 3%. And so what a lot of sellers were saying during the pandemic days, right, 2020 and beyond, is that they were coerced or forced to pay that 3% to the other side, as opposed to being able to just pay their agent, right? They're like, hey, why am I paying the other side that's negotiating against us? We should only have to pay our agent. And so that was kind of the whole piece about the lawsuit. And that's what's going to change. It's going to take that piece off of the MLS so it can't be advertised publicly. It's now something that has to be put into an offer and things of that nature. And from a seller perspective, I can understand where they're coming from. They're like, hey, man, like that's another 3% I can put back in my pocket. That being said, when you look at a real estate transaction in totality, who is bringing the money to the table, right? It's the buyer. The seller is the one walking away with a major check at the end, right? The buyer's already paying for all the costs of running title, doing the appraisals, doing the inspections, bringing in other contractors. They got to bring the down payment. They've got their own closing costs. And now you're tacking on another 3% for closing costs. It can now start to really become an uphill battle for a seller to be able to get a property if you don't have the right individuals negotiating for it, right? For us, the Chicago home team, I'm not actually worried about it. I'm actually kind of excited because I think we get to flex a little bit of muscle here, right? And start to negotiate some deals creatively, which would be fun. But for the broader industry, for the 80% of folks out there, they're freaking out because, especially if you're a new agent, this was your bread and butter. Like, you don't get listings as a new agent because you don't know what you're doing, right? You're trying to figure it out, right? You're like, hey, I'm just going to go show this house. And if they like it, hopefully we can get into this house and I can start to learn along the way. But now new agents aren't going to have that as a given. And what I get nervous about, especially for the new agents that are not working with anybody else, with a mentor, with a team, is they're going to get taken advantage of. I can tell you, I've coached some individuals, right, where prior to kind of coming on board, things of that nature, others would coerce them out of their pay. And it's like legit, when you look at realtors versus other industries, like a sports agent with things of that nature, this is one of the best deals on the planet, right? Sports agents and other specialized folks are getting like 10, 15%. Realtors are 3%. And a lot of time they're spending a good portion of that time running numbers, driving all the way around, and doing a lot of things where it's not paid for work. And so for those younger agents, I do get nervous for them being able to actually survive in the industry. That was kind of a long-winded. Did I help answer that question?
No, yeah, a little, yeah, it definitely did. It's cool that it was a long-winded one because this is definitely like a long-winded topic, and I feel like it can kind of go into a lot of different directions. So an additional question on top of that now, is it to the point where as a buyer I can negotiate the commission for, was it my buyer's agent?
Absolutely. That
Okay.
has always been negotiable. It's just previously it was, hey, don't worry about this. The seller's taking care of it.
Yeah.
Now it's an actual conversation, right? And the conversation's like, hey, this is our commission. We're going to work hard to get that paid for by the seller. But if there's a delta within that, that piece could come to you to pay. And we're working with clients right now where we have that agreement in place. Now, I think you did it with your deal. We've done it with a bunch of deals where we've been able to get a bunch of credits to take care of that piece. But if we're unable to do that, that would fall back to you, which kind of makes sense. In the commercial world, like when we're buying, the commercial land, when we're buying that 12 unit I bought a couple of years ago, when you move to 5+ units or to anything that's commercial, like, office or, big complexes, typically each buyer pays their own broker, right? And pays their own agent. It's only in the residential space that they tried to make it a little more amenable for the buyers because this is your first home, right? A lot of people, this is their biggest investment in their life and they're not going to do multiple. This is the only one they're going to buy, right? Maybe one more. And so they tried to make it a little easier for those folks to get in. But now it's going to go more to the commercial space where everybody has to pay their own advisors. And so to that point, now you have to have a conversation. It can't just be, hey, this is my cousin's uncle's daughter that has a license, so we're going to roll with her to go get this house. Okay, is she worth it? Right? Now you got to have a conversation like, what is this value that this person's bringing? Right? Is it contacts? Is it whatever? Right? And understand that piece before you enter into agreement.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I would say, having gone through this on my deal as well, where the seller wasn't willing to pay the full 3% commission, right? And I had to cover that delta. And that was really as a result of the seller being very savvy, right? He had been around the block. And it was off market, so he understood the parameters of the deal. And I would say too, having gone through that and having to come to closing with that check, I would much rather see that over time baked into the home price right? Because then like I'm not coughing up that delta, you know, and even though you're talking about, you know, percents or half percents, hey man, shit adds up, right? So like I would rather probably pay that over time and like be okay with the seller baking that into the home price, especially if they're willing to give me a credit on that 3%. Now I don't have to bring that out of my pocket like closing day, but I'm already closing and like probably going to renovate and maybe furnishing. So that's my 2 cents on it.
And to that point, it's similar to the whole closing cost conversation, which I'm going through a battle right now with a new investor, right? And we put this deal under contract and we got it for about 25K less than asking. But what I was trying to do is like, hey, let's put this at asking, but get 25K in credits so you can come to closing with just the down payment. I've explained this so many times, right? Like 4 or 5 times. She want to go that direction. It's fine, right? But now she's coming back around like, oh, I get it now. I understand. I'm like, yeah, like literally you could just bake this in and come with just the 10%. You don't need to bring another, but whatever. So long story short, we're going to be working hard as a team to bake all of this in because it makes sense. If you could just come with the down payment, that's ideal in every way. Like I'm literally getting ready to close in a month and a half on a duplex. This is going to be a new house hack that we got under contract. I'm excited about it. And we've built it in where we already have the credits for closing. We took the full 6%. We just added it on top of the purchase price. And if it appraises, cool. If it doesn't, we're going to negotiate that thing down. But the reason I did that way is I want to be able to, similar to Desmond, buy down the interest rate and then also cover closing costs.
So I have a question for myself because Naira asked me this question. And and you're actually, yours is a perfect example. So because you're representing yourself, you're getting the buyer's agent fee. Now, can you still pay yourself technically when you're purchasing?
Yeah.
10%.
No, but this is a great question, and this is a real one, right? And this is where it comes down to your strength of negotiation. So to answer your question, heck yes, I'm putting 5% down to buy this property, and I'm getting 3% as a commission to represent myself from the seller's agent because we negotiated that. On top of that, we're getting another 6% toward closing, which I just built on top of the thing. And so when you look at the whole like project, I'm actually not bringing anything close. Think about it. I'm putting money out, and then I'm getting money back, and then I'm using the extra to do like a build out of like an in-law suite. And so long story short, I'm actually just paying for the build out of the in-law suite when you think about it. Like when you look at, okay, how much money is going out, how much is coming in. So yes, you just got to negotiate it.
So I just wanted to ask very quick. So the seller is not obligated to give you the 3%. That's just what you negotiated.
Yes. And so the main change is typically it's listed like, hey, this is the percentage that they're paying to the buyer agency. Now it's not. And it's literally going to be illegal here come July to show a property without a buyer brokerage agreement with your client. Now, they're still going to be offering commissions, and this is going to be a quick conversation with the agent like, hey, you know, my client likes this, but unless you're covering the full commission, they're not willing to kind of move forward on this piece, right? And so these are going to be conversations that are had kind of behind doors. But when we put in the actual offer, we're able to put in the special steps, hey, seller to cover X, and it just becomes another item that's negotiable as opposed to, and this comes back to the lawsuit, as opposed to just a given. Before it's just a given, hey, they're going to X amount, it's going over to the buyer agent. Now it's not a given. Now it's another item that you have to negotiate, and you've got to put it in the deal to make sure that all parties are aware.
Right. And then one more quick question on top of that. So that's the max that honestly a seller's agent will want to give the buyer's agent at 3%. No more. Okay.
Correct. Now, there are some times, especially for either a higher value house where it's like the highest comp in the neighborhood, or a house that needs a lot of work, where sellers are, and this comes down to the seller agent being good with their seller too, but sellers are offering more of a commission to get that property sold. So I've seen some where it's like, hey, 4% to get this one sold by January 31st, X% for this, and kind of go from there.
Right, because I feel like even that 3%, that's kind of just like the standard. Like what he's kind of been going off of, right? But I feel like based off your negotiation skills, if you could go in there and negotiate 6%, especially if you're representing yourself, I don't know how you would do that. And I feel like that's like probably the toughest negotiation to do, right? You're representing yourself and then trying to argue like, I need my agent to get paid, but I'm my agent and like, hey, he's worth it. Like, trust me.
Listen, let me talk to the client and I'll get back to you. Client, let me talk to my name, phone up, call back. Hey.
Text yourself.
It's definitely interesting, but it's kind of fun. I'm not gonna lie. This is it's like the fourth or fifth that we're doing now, and so yeah, you just gotta. At the end of the day, one of the things that I try to preach to the team and that we're awesome at is you're gonna negotiate hard with the other side, but you do want to make sure that they'll pick up your phone call, right? You don't need to be an asshole about it, right? Make sure that they're gonna pick up your phone call when you call. But you should negotiate hard for your clients. Robin, how you doing, man?
What's going on? How are you?
Super good. We missed you the other week, and
I know, man.
too.
Yeah, I was dealing with my car situation. I was all the way down in Jonesboro, and I was just looking at the clock like, this is not, this is not gonna work. It was raining that day too, so it's like I knew 2 hours. I knew by like 3 o'clock I wasn't gonna make it. So sorry to miss it. No, how was it? You guys having a good time?
That did it for me as well.
I was
It was cool. It was cool. It was good to see everybody. And we're going to do more of those types of events. We're actually got one that we have planned at the mansion in May, where we're going to have our friend Ricardo come down. I was actually talking to him earlier today. So we'll be sending out some stuff in early April, but it'll be kind of a part 2 to what we did last year, right? Except it's going to be even better, because we got some pretty cool stuff coming in there. So I'll keep you posted over the next couple of weeks, but I'm excited.
Cool.
And Justin, as if we didn't see each other twice today, how you doing, man?
All right, man. I can't complain. Living the dream, or trying to at least.
Yeah, no, I love it. And to that point, now we're going to transition a little bit. I know we've been on NAR all meeting, but does anybody have anything that's top of mind that you will talk about? Kareem, go for it.
So Kareem, yeah, let me take.
So, as you're navigating that the arbitrage market, do anyone have any advice on like out of town inspection? I don't want to say out of state, but like anything that's maybe 3 hours drive for me, I consider that like far. That's out of town. That's out of state. May as well be in Florida or Nashville or anywhere. So I'm trying to see if I can trust somebody from like Upwork or Fiverr to hire them for the day to do like a walkthrough, and is there like that type of job? Like does this thing exist, or do I have to explain and train someone from scratch to try to understand what I'm trying to accomplish? This is the hurdle that I'm facing. Like,
Levi?
I was gonna say,
I think he just frozen. So
I was saying, an agent. I would recommend going with an agent, because, like, for instance, we have a client we helped close on, and they were like, "Hey, I need somebody to put boxes in a house," and I was like, "I'll do it," and then I get paid like per box drop, and so basically, some, hey, can you do this for me? I'll give you $50, whatever you decide, with them. And then the agent will probably end up wanting to work with you, because they'll want to work with you a long time, or they'll say, hey, instead of doing arbitrage, how about you buy? So, they'll have more incentive in that regard.
I would agree with Liban on the agent piece. I can tell you that when I was building the portfolio in Louisville and lived in Boston, thousands of miles away, I literally was not going to go down there to inspect everything. I just leaned on my agent. Right? She investor friendly. She would do video walkthroughs, detailed. I gave her like some apps to take pictures, before and after, things of that nature. And so if you could find a solid agent out that way, they should be able to cover it for you. That's one way. And to Liban's point, you're just paying like a project management fee, we'll call it. But that's what you're looking for, right? Like a project manager for like putting everything together.
Yeah, more of a on the short term, just for right now. Eventually, yeah, I'm gonna need a like a portfolio manager. when it's like when I'm coming up on like the third or the fourth unit, then I need to be hands off because I just don't have the bandwidth. I barely do now with one unit. So I wonder if I can still approach an agent, even though I did not get the deal through them. They're not getting like any commission from the deal or something. I have someone else that I pay to source these deals and do the initial contact with the landlords and the owners, right? So I'm already, but that person is offshore, so they can't go and like do the walkthroughs and videos and stuff like that. So there, my question is it not weird to reach out to an agent in the area? They're like, hey, this is a situation. Can you do like a walkthrough and can you be like my eyes on the ground until like through that like setup phase?
Not weird at all. And I think it's absolutely doable. The only caveat I'd give you is you probably looking for a newer agent that has closed less than, say, 12 deals in a year, right? That's a person that you can go to and say like, hey, for X amount, are you willing to go and do this? And Lebon knows, like, we're in these workplace chats with the other agents in EXP, and constantly, especially folks that are not on a team, they're looking for like, hey, can somebody show a house in Jonesboro on Sunday because I'm going to be out of town? And they'll pay another agent, right, to go and get the door open for their clients. So absolutely, it's just not going to be the busier agent.
And I was going to ask you this, Kareem, are you going to manage the 4-hour away property?
Yeah, the management piece, once it's set up, I'm gonna have someone on the ground, the same deal that I'm doing with the property that's an hour away, because I've been practicing that like for the last 2 years, for a year and a half or so. I've been practicing not having to go. So I've been treating the property that's an hour away as if it's 4 hours away. I only go like once every 3-4 months. But I do have eyes on the ground. So I have somebody that I trust, and I send them over there. He takes pictures, videos. Also my handyman. So it's the same person. I am struggling with cleaning. I will say that. But as far as like having someone to go, it's fine. And in terms of managing like the guests, that hasn't really been like a big deal for me. Maybe because it's just like one spot, but I'm like happy to get myself opportunity to like 3 to 4, and then I'm like, I can't handle. Bad, Rob.
I was just gonna ask what happened with the property we looked at. Was it last week or a couple weeks ago?
Oh yeah. Yeah, the owner kind of like stalling. So I went over there and met with her, talked about the contract, showed her the addendum to the contract, giving me permission to sublet and everything, went over like the rules and the expectations and all these things. And she's shown a lot of interest. We came back, we shared some documents, and then she's been ghosting me for the last 2 days. So this is why I'm moving on. I said I'll give her till Friday. I communicated that. So if I don't hear back on Friday, I'm going to assume that, you're no longer interested.
Applying that pressure.
Yeah.
Kareem, I know we had talked about this a while ago. Can you just remind me of what's your primary motivation for going out of state, right? For going 3 or 4 hours away? Like, is it a part of the local area not being suitable, you think, for arbitrage, or what's your motivation?
I don't really have one. I would go, so I would start in concentric circles. So I start in like the closest to me would be like the most ideal. And then if I can't find the best deals, then these circles will have to become larger bases, right?
Right. 'Cause I would even say it's kind of hard to understand. Or like, it might not be an apples to apples comparison, comparing a deal 2 miles away versus like 200 miles away, because you also have to factor in what are the extra costs that you have because of that distance, right? You have this external management, you're paying real estate agents, right, to do these tasks. So like, I think those kind of things add up. The gas, right, adds up. You're probably going to want to go at some point. So I would just say maybe consider that, right? Like I would maybe, challenge you to call every apartment complex in the area, right? Or, do something crazy, right? In the local area and maybe try to get lucky there as opposed, because like even I had to arbitrage, it was on the west side of Atlanta. And like, dude, I was so tired of freaking going up there. I mean, like, that's to say I was going and doing the work. I wasn't really hiring anyone. Like, it was me and Abby, my girlfriend, going and, doing most of it. But even like 20 minutes away, like, after about a month, I'm like, man, like, I'm ready for this to be over too, personally.
Well, take in like these expenses
Okay.
going in. So I already factor in like all these expenses that I have to pay. I put like 3 to 5% extra for like maintenance, just for that person to go back and forth. And if the numbers don't add up, I just don't go into the deal.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's the only thing I wanted to say. Like, I would just, maybe give the local area a second thought, because I know you're not too far.
Love to.
Yeah, why not?
The numbers just couldn't add up.
Yeah, I hear that. And maybe even if it's not, Hayville, East Point, College Park, maybe it's like, Douglasville, Fayetteville, or a surrounding area closer to, because there are so many surrounding cities. I have a feeling if you just throw a dart, you might get lucky with that one, right? With there being so many surrounding counties, I feel like there has to be one where it works, and there's probably multiple. And that might be a point of adjusting the analysis, right? And like, what numbers are you running, and like, what does that look like? So, just my 2 cents on that.
Near like closer areas would be ideal, obviously, if I can find some. Look at.
True. And AJ, you had something?
Yeah, I did have a question. It's kind of years completely away from the arbitrage thing, but this is actually going to bother me for some time. To the point where I actually wrote this question down. Now it's a multi-part question, but just rock with me. It's not too long, but it's about home warranties. So this is the question. So, do you use home warranties? Do you feel like it's worth subscribing to as a homeowner? Typically, these subscriptions cost hundreds of dollars per year, and I personally never end up using them. Not to mention the service fee to actually get a professional out to dispatch to go do the service for me is $125, and it may vary depending on what service you're actually using. Additionally, I hear horror stories of these companies not actually paying out for the repairs. I paid for American Home Shield over the past couple of years due to fear of big ticket items breaking, such as a water heater, AC unit, HVACs, the like. So to cap this all off and summarize it, the main questions are, would you recommend investing in a home warranty or simply tucking away the money as a CapEx expense?
Yes.
I'm a cat.
I'll answer first. I think you should tuck the money away. Generally, with insurance, it's like you always see greater return on just saving the money on your own versus subscribing to any insurance service. I used to work for Apple, and insurance is generally the biggest margin gain for most companies because, like you said, most people never use it. Like some people will buy Apple Care and they still won't even use Apple Care. They just go buy it in fall. Like, I know that sounds insane, but people buy the insurance and they forget that they have it. So I would say just sucking that money away. That way, if you don't need to use it, you don't have to use it, but you have it there in case you do have to make the repair. So some people would think like, oh, well, I'm going to save a percentage by just subscribing to the service. But like, you actually lost money if you never had to use that service, like you mentioned. Warren Buffett has a phrase, never lose money. So there you go.
It's simple as that.
Hey, piggybacking off.
And two, like a lot of these, like say if you buy a refrigerator, right? Buy it with a credit card, then you get an extended warranty. So you're getting this manufacturer warranty versus going out to buying a warranty.
Agreed. And piggybacking off of Justin's first point, I personally do not, right? I do exactly what he said. I kind of put money away. That being said, the one caveat is if you are newer to this, since your first home and like, you're just like a retail buyer homeowner type of deal, it may be a peace of mind thing, right? Especially if the systems are old. But if the systems have been maintained, like I'm all for putting money aside. And especially as you continue to grow the number of units you have, now you can start to combine, I'm not saying combine and set account, but across the board, have X amount of dollars to cover all your units, and you're good. If you have 5 units and you have, 15K set aside in the escrow account to cover all 5 units, no matter what goes wrong, you're going to be fine, right? Like if a water heater goes out, that's a $1,300 to $1,600 expense, depending on the blower that you use, right? HVAC's about $3,000, furnace about another $3,000. And you're going to know that these things are kind of getting to that point. So I would, I don't spend on the home warranties.
Got you. Yeah.
And to that point, right, once it gets so large, doesn't your home insurance, tends your home insurance cover some of that too? Like, say, anything catastrophic. So you're only looking at up to a limit of the amount of things that you would have to replace before your home insurance will kick into effect anyway.
Additionally, also to piggyback off everything they said, I typically will only recommend it if you're buying the home and the seller's covering it. That's like that's when I'll say, okay, yeah, you do it because it's free at that point.
For sure. And that's why at the end, I asked, would you recommend investing in it, or just simply, I said the latter, which is simply tucking the money away. Because I figured you guys would say that. I just wanted to be sure. I felt a little bit silly over the past couple of years paying for American Home Shield, and it's like $500 something a year. So I spent over $1,000 and I still haven't even actually used them. And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Like, I'm pretty experienced at this point. I have multiple homes. I kind of know the game a bit. So if I'm already proposing that, hey, like, it probably makes sense to just put this money away as opposed to just giving it up. And that's a sunk cost. It's a pawn. It's, you can never get that back. You know what I'm saying? So, I just really wanted to ask that. And then especially like, I mentioned in there, I've heard like horror stories, you pay for this service and then it's kind of like, you have to fight tooth and nail to actually even get the claim through because, they're asking all these questions and things like that. Now, again, I hadn't been through this process and I hope I'll never have to go through that process. But it's just a little bit concerning what I see online about these insurance or home warranty companies. So that definitely makes me feel a bit better that, a couple of you guys are basically agreeing that, hey, you should probably just tuck that money away. And I think with that being said, that's probably where I'm going to start to move moving forward, because my renewal is actually up on April 8th. So not going to
Nice. Not no, I'm all for it. And honestly, that's the insurance game, right? That Justin alluded to it. That's how they make money, is about denying claims. And so like, it's for all insurance. Now, home insurance, you have to get with a mortgage and things of that nature. I think everybody should because it's a large investment. But they do the same thing. Like, well, how did it happen? Well, we can't cover that because, we have this one clause in here. It's like, well,
listen, that point is just AI. It's crazy.
It low key is, but
oh, it's 100% a thing.
Yeah, just
if we all want to make some money, we should start selling insurance. That's the real kicker here.
No,
talk about the maintenance insurance but next time we'll talk about that. That was my idea. I'll tell you more about it.
Hey, come on now. Yeah, we will cover that next time. Guys, I appreciate you hopping on. Justin, it's good to see you again. And we will catch you a little bit later.
Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern as we explore different types of investments that can fast track your path to